Hey teachers, Brother Judd here, and I've got some help for your lessons out of Mormon chapters 8 and 9, the lesson all about Mormon and Moroni seeing our day, and that the Book of Mormon is indeed written for our day. Now, as with a lot of the lessons, the curriculum is very good at helping you take your students through the scriptures and gives good quotes from prophets and really testifies of the prophetic mission of the Book of Mormon and that it's written for our day, and as such, it is of great value to us, to our young people, to read and to have the Lord help us through the Book of Mormon to deal with the trials that are part of living in the last days. But how can you get your students into this lesson? As with a lot of the lesson gems, we've heard teachers respond that you really appreciate some of the readiness activities, and I think I've got a good one for you to help draw your students into this lesson. So the possible learning activity says to bring a box that represents a time capsule. And so then you could, imagine living a long time ago and you were asked to write a message to be put in the time capsule and it would be opened in our day. And so then you ask students, make predictions about the future or whatever. And that's a fun activity. I was thinking to myself, how could we kick this up a notch to really kind of play into that idea of time capsules and predicting the future? And I thought, well, people have always been trying to predict the future for a while. So did people back in the day, like the 1900s, predict what the year 2024 was going to look like? And I remembered somewhere reading back in the day that there was a group of authors called Futurists that would indeed do that. They actually had Futurist magazines where people would try to predict what science was going to do and what politics and culture were going to look like in the future. And so I just Googled, I can't remember exactly what the search term was, but I found this fascinating article titled "People in the 1900s Made Some Wild Predictions About the Future, but They Weren't All Wrong." And I found these great cartoons that were made of these futurists and their predictions about what our day was indeed going to be like. So, for example, one of the predictions was that firefighters would fly around with bat wings on. And so if you want to, you could copy this image and either put it on a screen or print it out for your students and be like, this is what people thought our day was going to look like. And then, that we'll all travel across the Atlantic Ocean in these sweet-looking blimp boats. And there's another one here about we would domesticate whales and use them as underwater transportation. And you can see where these people are coming from. They're taking the world that they knew, and they were trying to kind of kick it up a notch to figure, okay, well, whales and submarines, and we could put the two together, and maybe whales will help us to travel underwater somehow. We'll also domesticate giant mutant seahorses. I don't know where that one was coming from, but we'll be hunting seagulls from underwater somehow. Who knows where that one came from. Here's one that we often thought of, that flying cars will indeed be a thing. I can remember as a child in the 1980s, all the cartoons that I watched had flying cars. George Jetson had his flying car. Not something that we have yet. Anyway, I'll include the link to this article in the description to the video, so you can check these out if you want to. But just the idea that, this is what some of the sophisticated people back in the 1900s were predicting. And, well, we have a prophet historian, Mormon, and his son Moroni, who had writings, and they were shown our day. And so you could just compare and contrast these predictions of the Futurists with the prophecies of Mormon and Moroni. And maybe that would be a good way to launch your students into this discussion of how prophets can indeed see the future and make predictions about the future and prepare us. Now, maybe they're not going to tell us about the technology of the future, but they're going to tell us about the things that are more important, the things more fundamental to the heart, the things that are either going to really help society and culture move towards greater faith in Jesus Christ, or to pull us away into, well, really the things that Mormon and Moroni describe, and they get it right on. So just an idea, and as always, you know, the time capsule activity is a perfectly fine one. I was just trying to think of a way where you could take that idea of predictions and time capsules and maybe engage your students just a little bit more, bring some humor into the class, you know, especially for those of you teaching early morning classes, to really up the energy by laughing together and, you know, looking at pictures, something like that. So as mentioned, I'll include the link to that article, but I'm sure you will share this quote with your class, but I just feel like it's a good way to end this training about the Book of Mormon. If they saw our day and chose things which would be of greatest worth to us, is not that how we should study the Book of Mormon? We should constantly ask ourselves, why did the Lord inspire Mormon or Moroni or Alma to include that in his record? What lesson can I learn from that to help me live in this day and age? And this is going to be a great lesson. So I hope you have a great time with it, whether you're doing time capsules or predictions or whatever it is. We indeed have prophets who give us accurate predictions of what the last days are indeed going to be like. And have a great time teaching these things to your students. So thanks for watching this training, and I'll have another one for you next week. Until then, take care.